I think I got viral in 2016 for going on a honeymoon without my husband, and this was before viral was a thing.
What if you hate it? What if you're like, oh Jesus Christ, now I'm married to this person and I have to have sex with this person my whole life, but this was so bad.
You could be in the most safest of places in your own home and still get taken advantage of.
Because right now, a lot of women marry for guardianship. That's changing and that's really great. On my podcast today, I have Huma Mobin. I know you as Moby, by the way. I don't know if you know that.
No, I think
I don't know how many people actually call you Moby anymore because I've never heard anyone else say that except Harim. And
yes.
so I know Huma for a really long time. She's really great at a lot of things. She works in the creative, I guess, advertising industry
Yes, you got that right.
in Pakistan.
Yep.
And I've known her for a long time, and she's won a lot of awards, like more than 100. That's insane. That's more than most people earn in awards in their lifetimes. So because she's so great, I thought that she should come over and talk because she's a serious advocate of women and their freedom. And it would be really nice to hear what she has to say. But maybe you can start off by introducing yourself.
So I think you gave a good introduction there, Is. I'm Huma Mobin. I'm based in Pakistan. I'm a social media activist. I'm a mother of two girls. I'm trying to break stereotypes with each and every breath that I take in Pakistan. I run my own firm, which goes by the name Contemporary, and I have more than 300 awards to my name. I'm the most awarded female creative director in Pakistan, and I got the highest ranking creative award in 2020. And last year, I was shortlisted in this female acceleration program for female creatives. So we got the title of top 16 female creative leaders of the world. So I was one of them. And I think I got viral in 2016 for going on a honeymoon without my husband, and this was before viral was a thing. So yeah, that's I think that's all I do. That's
This
just
was crazy. A woman who went on her honeymoon alone. I also saw this story and that's when I found out, oh my god, I think I know this girl. Someone I know knows her, and then we have a mutual connection. So that was insane. You've also won Cannes Lions, right?
I
That's
won
like the
advertising.
Oscar of advertising.
Yeah.
Nice. That's
So
simply put.
it's
I'm not sure
18.
how many people know.
18 Cannes
18.
Lions. Yes. And this was most of them were
How did you
won.
do this?
Oh, we worked on.
How was it? Was it hard?
It was just good faith. Honestly, if your intentions were pure, I honestly, till this point, I don't realize how much of a big deal it is until I went in Cannes Lions and realized that when I told people I won 18 Cannes Lions, they'd be like, really? And I'd imposter syndrome as it is. I'd be like, really? Did I win 18? But then I'd be like, no, I did. Like, we made amazing campaigns, to create some social impact in Pakistan, which won us numerous awards. But, like my own firm, which started about 3-4 years ago, I came up with an idea which I knew was going to win a lot of awards.
So why I wanted to speak with you was because, I'm writing a book about sex lives of Muslim women. And from there, I had the feeling that I think I've spoken to around 16 to 20 women.
Nice.
Not all of them are Muslim. Some of them are Indian and not Muslim. But we have a very similar upbringing. So I wanted to speak to a variety of people just to get a feeling for it. And from there, I had the idea that you talked a lot about your relationship with your husband and even your past relationships, and you were very candid. And I thought maybe we could speak about, for everyone to hear, what was the conversation around sex in your relationships and in your relationship with your partner, with your husband, and where does sexuality and where does sexual intimacy stand in the society that we live in Pakistan?
So you have to understand because you also grew up in Pakistan, right? The way we were conditioned, at least us, I belong to the millennial um, era, basically, the generation. And we still had boomers teaching us a lot of things, right? And we had to respect them. We weren't too well aware at that time. Oh, this is not making sense. Why should this happen? It's now in our late 30s, mid 30s that we're like, what they taught us was not okay. It's having an impact on my life, right? So at that time, even being physically attracted to someone was looked down upon at, although it's such a natural thing. So if, for example, I'm a huge, like anyone who knows me knows I'm mad crazy about Hugh Jackman in Wolverine. I had a huge crush on Harry Potter. It was looked down upon it. Like someone who's
Huge ass, man. Did you say huge ass?
no, I said Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. Oh my god, the connection.
Oh my god.
What is she saying? What is she saying? Like we're from Pakistan or from Norway.
Oh god.
Hugh Jackman. Oh, I didn't know that. I've been following you a long time.
No.
Clearly
OGs
not paying as much
know
attention, but
that he's my original husband, and my current husband is actually my second husband. So when Wolverine and
so everybody has a lot of people have a cheat list. So you have a cheat list with Hugh Jackman on it for life.
We don't have anything like that, but it's a known fact between my husband and I that if presented the opportunity, there's I won't even tell him.
Does he have a person like that as well?
No, not really. He's not that dedicated, except being dedicated to me, I guess. He's never had that one person that he's crazy about. Like he's never just the way I am, like Hugh Jackman and like Michael Fassbender, or there are a couple of people. I don't find people normally attractive, but when I do, it's like full on crazy obsession sort of a thing. So
obsession.
So, yeah, like
keyword is obsession.
Yeah. Like Harry Potter was like Daniel Radcliffe's birthday. Everything was like.
Are you also obsessed with Arsalan? Who's your husband for the world?
I have to be. I bore him his 2 children. So yes, I have to.
You must be. Moving on. Thank you. We're moving on. What was the conversation around sex, and how long? How was it around sex? How was the conversation around sex with your partners and with Arsalan?
So
before you guys got married, what was this situation like? How old were you? Like, take me there.
Okay, so my first boyfriend was, I think, around 20. And that was in my college years. He was my senior. And, I came off, I was crazy. I was fun. I was humorous. And I was all this little petite girl bouncing about and everything. But I also had that aura that I don't know. I don't want to take that term because it's so derogatory, but not as a slut. Like you can just have fun with, or you can just make out with and just be done with it. Right now I say like to each their own, whatever works for them. But at that time, it had like certain stature that you belong to a good family. That if somebody's interested in you, it has to be like a relationship. It can't be a fling or anything like that. So when I started going out with my boyfriend, he knew my family, he knew my friends, he knew the kind of people, the kind of values I had. So it was never that we're going to do it. It was never there on the table. Not, and even I never wanted to explore that. I'm a late bloomer, by the way, as well. So I didn't enjoy that intimacy and those things in the early stages a lot. I was just like, ew, what's going on? Like, why is he kissing? Like, what's going on right there?
How old were you at this time?
I think I was 21, 22. I wasn't that hyper sexually during that time. And so it was just like, it was known. But with my husband, we dated for 2 years. And by that time, I was 26, 27. So by that time, I was like, I enjoyed making out with him and having fun with him and all that. But again, we were both virgins and we just didn't want to do it because honestly, he was my fling. So you have to also understand The previous.
This is so interesting. You've told me that he's your fling, and then the next sentence was, "But I didn't want to do it." So I'm like, okay, so this is a limited fling. You know what I
No,
mean?
no,
It's
no.
a fling, but in a limited way.
Not really. For me, it was limitless. For my, at that time, Huma, so if I was with my boyfriend, making out was like not for me, right? Maybe it could be because I was young, I wasn't that sexually active like that, like I wasn't horny like that. But with my husband, who I wanted to treat as a fling, I enjoyed making out with him. Maybe because he was my fling, so I didn't give a shit what he thought about me, right? So, like if we're going in like on a road which is deserted, I just grab him and start kissing him and stuff like that. And I think that's the thing that probably got him more hooked on to me. Okay, I like this. I like this. And when we got married, it was like, like sort of it fizzled out a bit eventually.
But I'm really interested, like before the marriage part, how did you go from with the previous partner? Oh, this is why is he kissing? This is so to enjoying making out. Like what changed in these years?
I think I got more confident. I started earning. I had my own car to drive around. I was spending left, right, and center. So there was this financial freedom that I had, and this confidence that I had with myself that was there. And then the fact that it was my decision to do this. And the fact that Arslan didn't like, even while we were dating, and my husband has had quite a few girlfriends, like 15, if I can count all of them. And
15.
15, 1 5.
How are you so sure? Such an exact number, 15. Nice.
Because we talked, and he would tell me, I'd be very interested in like what your experience
Not
is.
12, not 17,
15.
Nice.
Because Lahore's so small, and you would run into them all the time. And I like I said, I'm not obsessed with him, so I was never insecure about that. Oh, that ex is standing their exes for a reason. The same, whatever happened with me, I applied to him as well. So he had 15 girlfriends, and whenever I would ask him, "Ooh, okay, so what was your experience like? Well, what maximum did you do with your girlfriend and everything?" He would tell, and I'm like, "Which one was it?" And he won't tell me the name, so I would know that.
Good guy.
Like
good guy alert.
Not kiss and tell, right? So I was like, okay, I can be explore myself with him, and he's not gonna, he's not gonna go ahead telling people, which is a huge thing in Pakistan. Like I know so many girls who are just dry wells right now because they're like, yeah, even if you want to explore, they're just gonna go ahead, flaunt it to people. That chick, I did this with that chick and that chick. So I think the decency has sort of gone down a bit as well. During our times, sex was something that was like, oh my God, they did it. Like, it was a huge thing before marriage. And it just never occurred to me and Arslan to ever cross that limit, ever. Because we knew we were going to get married and we were going to do it. And I don't know why, and now that I think about it in hindsight, somewhere or the other, my husband was romantic about it, that I want to do it on our wedding night, which was a disaster. And I was like, why did we wait this long?
I was gonna say this was gonna be my next question. Like, I respect completely people who have this decision that we want to do it on our wedding night.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. But I mean, what if it's a disaster? What if you hate it? What if like, oh Jesus Christ, now I'm married to this person and I have to have sex with this person my whole life, but this was so bad.
That's the thing, right?
Like, how do you, like, there's no mitigation possible anymore. You're married. Of course, you can always leave someone, but then, I mean, you're married. You just got married like 5, 6, 7 hours ago.
Yeah. Thing is that it never occurred to me to check him or something. Because obviously when you'd be making out, you could feel the erection there and all of that. So that was...
No, but it's not just about checking. It's also about...
the compatibility?
Sexual compatibility and the chemistry.
Yeah.
And did it ever cross your mind
No,
that
we used to make out, right? So the compatibility was pretty much there. It would turn me on. I knew that he would be very respectful of consent, and we there was never so forcefulness or anything like. So we were pretty compatible. In fact, we're very compatible even till now. Um, but the disaster was that he was a noob, he was a virgin, and I was a virgin, and we were just trying to figure it out throughout the night. And when we got done, because obviously imagine a organ that was never used and you're trying to put something in it, it's going to go in shock, right? Like muscle spasms and whatnot. And there was no like it wasn't that painful, but it was hurtful. And then eventually, when we were done and everything, I was just so disappointed the next day because I went to my best friend, and you know her as well, the friend who lives in New York, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, this is what we saved ourselves for. Like, what the hell is this? And she was like, "No, what happened? Like, what he could like he." She was more concerned, is he impotent or anything? I was like, "No, none of that. It's just that it's just an act, and we waited this long, and we've made such a huge deal about it. Like, oh, you gotta save yourself. You gotta save myself for what? Like, now I have to wait. I don't know how many months or years to be compatible with this person. Like, for my body to get used to his body." And even my sister was there, who's very conservative. She's like, "Su, like, this is how it is. Just suck it up." So, but then, it took me about 6 to 7 months to get used to it. And, obviously there's the big question, how do you come? Like, like for girls, especially, like, because it's penetrative orgasm that you have, or do you have like a clitoris stimulating orgasm? So you've got to figure all these things out, and you're under pressure. Like, you waited 28 years of your life to marry and have sex, right? And now that you're doing it, you're not coming. And because I've explored myself, so I know how I come. So it was like, okay, so we had to read up on a lot of things. And Google some articles, and Aslan would be sharing it with me. I'll be sharing it with him, and we will talk about it. Like, he'd be like, "You weren't in it, like, what's going on?" And I'd be like, like, for a very long time I didn't disclose it to him until I had to, and I said to him that I have to make weird scenarios in my head just to get myself off. And he got really offended. He's like, "What does that mean?" Because
what do you mean by weird scenarios?
So, okay, this is because one of my DMs actually was from a sex therapist who just started talking to me, and I just started telling this person, like, "Look, this is what I'm going through." And this person explained, because they were also from a South Asian descent, and they were like, "You know what, Huma, we've been raised by being told that sex is so dirty and bad and ghalat and all the negative things that we've always associated with it. Like, if we'd be sitting with our parents and a kissing scene would come, what would our parents say? Turn your head away. A bad scene is here. So you're associating intimacy and, like, sexual intimacy with bad, dirty, disgusting. That's what you're associating with, right? So when you get married and all of a sudden, like, it's not dirty, and how do you change that years of conditioning that you've been given, right?
This is like, it's like, simply put, men shouldn't talk to strangers, but then they're supposed to marry a stranger and
do
with
it.
a stranger right after.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Imagine if somebody
you can't
had
even
this.
have dinner. You can't even have dinner. I always say this. You have sex before you even have dinner together.
Yeah.
That's literally how the wedding system is designed, because most people don't eat on their weddings. Like, I've been having this conversation with my mother. I'm like, "I want this for dinner on the day of the wedding," and she's like, "You're not gonna eat it, will you?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna eat it. I'm not gonna get married without biryani." And she's like, "Yeah, but like, how are you gonna eat it? Like, you're so dressed up. It's gonna look so weird. Like, are you just gonna keep eating or what?" And I was like, I mean, I will never get to eat my wedding dinner again.
Yeah.
You can't take me out for a dinner and be like, "This is your wedding dinner." She's like, "Yeah, but people don't eat." And I'm like, "I wanna eat with Christoph, like, it's our wedding." And I realized, I'm like, okay, so I expect that the day of the wedding is designed in a way that you just sign papers and then you have sex, and then the next day you can eat together.
Yeah.
So you don't know this person. What if it's a complete
If
stranger?
it's a complete stranger, like I just I don't know how people do it. Like respect to women out there. Maybe that's because it's such a hidden taboo subject. I'm sure there are men, Pakistani men out there who probably gave their, new wives time to get adjusted to them and, probably court them before they started having sex and everything. But I'm also worried about those women who just said, like, Salam alaikum and take it all off, and let's get to
There's
where,
a high number, I think there's a high number of women who are still part of that system where they don't have that kind of autonomy
refuse.
to say no.
Yeah.
And even if they say no, it's in a very shrouded manner. It's not exactly considered a no. And then even if they do say no, then how many people are going to listen to their no? And but I'm curious about you. um Before you got married and you guys you had a physical relationship, of course,
Yeah.
but you didn't want to have sex. Did you explore your body in the meantime, and did you know what your body could accept and what your body wasn't ready for, or what it was ready for? Or did that journey start altogether after you got married?
It started after I got married. I hadn't explored myself. Again, another taboo subject that people don't want to talk about, or mothers don't want to talk about with their daughters, or even friends don't want to talk about in our times. This was like, we could talk about boyfriends with our friends, but anything other than that, just like, why are you sharing this information? Like, it's too personal, it's TMI kind of a thing. But yeah, it started. That's why it took me 6 months to get used to Arslan, because I would just have to like psych myself into it. And, we're going to do, like, when we went for our first honeymoon to Maldives, I would drink and I would, like, lose your inhibitions. And then that's when I'd actually enjoy. Like, I would be telling Arslan, let's do this, let's do that. And he'd just be enjoying those times. But sadly, we live in Pakistan and alcohol isn't available this much. So he's like, there are special occasions that happens. And when it does, he's just enjoying it. He's like, I love this an uninhibited persona that comes out. Like, we enjoyed in Paris and Spain and Rome. It was just crazy. Like, it was like, yeah, man, I wish we were somewhere abroad, because this is a part of you that is just like bundled up. And I'm like, yeah, that's just it.
Yeah. I think the problem is also that when you make things illegal, what it does is it just immediately makes it unsafe.
Yeah.
A lot of people drink in Pakistan. A lot of people have sex out of marriage in Pakistan. It's totally normal.
Yeah, yeah.
But what it does is basically that it introduces an additional layer between you and the environment, and it just feels really unsafe because you feel like, what if something goes wrong, you know? And what if you have, I mean, take it like this: what if you go on a date with the person in Pakistan and then you want to have sex with them, but then you have all sorts of problems because you're like, I can't trust this person, because what if this person is an absolute disaster and this night is an absolute disaster? I can't even go to the authorities and the law enforcement, and I have no rights because this is basically illegal, right?
Yes.
And that's basically one of the things I always feel like: when you make something illegal, you just make it immediately unsafe.
Like
sex work.
like
Sex work in a lot of countries, it's illegal. I mean, there's no reason for it to be, but it is illegal, which makes it unsafe. Because if it's legal, then there could be then we can talk about hygiene and how to regulate it and how to be safe while doing it.
Yeah.
But when something's illegal, then you have no measures to make it safer. Like drinking alcohol, for example, in Pakistan. You can drink alcohol, but what if you're getting really, really drunk and then you're getting in an Uber? And then the Uber driver knows that this person's drunk,
yeah.
and then you feel immediately unsafe because you have no rights to protect you because drinking is illegal in the
Of
first
course,
place.
yeah.
So,
and obviously a drunk girl
this
is
is the
always...
problem with just making everything illegal. Is just it just exposes people to more risk.
That's true. Like, now that you talked about it, if I was single and now that I was talking to this guy who teaches in an OA level school, and he's like, you have no idea how sexually active these kids are. I was like, what? I have a 6-year-old daughter. And he's like, no, they're. They know everything. Like, they've been doing it. And I was like, do they have like sexual education? Have you taught them or anything? He's like, obviously, when they come to me, I tell them what to, like, as a teacher, as a woke teacher, right? You can't tell these kids not to do it, because if they're not going to listen to their parents, they're never going to listen to the teachers. The most you can do is just guide them, like use condoms, or just be careful and this and that and blah 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 blah, all that you can do to help these kids out. And now that I think about it, if I was single and if I had to, like, obviously because I've got needs and everything, I had to do it with a guy, my biggest fear would be this guy is probably recording me. Like, that's
Also, absolutely, because that's what I'm saying. It's, you have no rights. So what if something goes wrong? Where are you gonna go asking for protection? There are no
yeah,
protections. And that is the problem. That is why I think these things should be legal, because then people can be safer. And I'm not sure. I mean, what do they think? That people don't have sex or people don't drink? Of course, everyone does everything, but it's just, I feel like the state doesn't want to deal with it. So we talked about how did it work with you guys before you were married, and it took like a few months to get accustomed to each other's bodies. Did you guys, like, how was that communication phase like, and how was it emotionally and mentally to go through that? And do you think it helped at all that you guys had a love marriage at this point?
yes, of course it did. Like, that was the compatibility angle to it, right? We figured it out together. We understood, he understood my body, I understood his body. There are still certain boundaries that we still are not comfortable with, and that's okay. Like, we've gotten used to it, right? It's just how it is. But um with me, I feel I'm a person who's very comfortable with my own self, with my body and my sexuality. I am. So had it not been him, like, easier said than done. If I see someone else instead of him, someone who I wasn't in love with and was probably getting arranged, I would have figured out a way to
Yeah.
communicate to this person as well, that what I want and what I need. So right now I'm like, I'm going to be turning 37, and so is Arslan, right? And right now, 2-3 years ago, I started reaching my sexual peak, right? Like, I just was horny a lot of times. And the Mother Nature's big joke is that men's sexual decline starts happening when women are sexually getting active. And I just
Yeah.
turned to him and I was like, dude, like, figure this shit out. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I can't turn to sex toys. Like, I didn't marry for this, like, and because there's also male ego attached to their penis as well. He's like, I'm gonna do it. I was like, okay, do it. Like, you have to. Like, what other option do we have? Like, I turn on Bumble or Tinder. Like, what's going to happen? But the thing was, he keeps up with me as well, and he also, like, there's, like I said, there's like massive sexual compatibility. And the thing is that when we got married, we were the first couple to get married in our social group. Like we said, at that time, none of us were having sex. We had partners, we had boyfriends, we had girlfriends, but most of us weren't having sex, at least not in my social circle. So we were the first couple to get married, and Arslan is a very, very generous lover, honestly. So he had one of his really close friends who's also a good friend of mine, and he would be asking me, he's like, so are you satisfied? So I was like, more than satisfied. Like, and I'm like, I'm not overcompensating or anything. I would tell you if he was bad in bed, but he's really good. And later on, after 4 or 5 years, Arslan's like, that's when Arslan told me, what did you go around telling my friends? I was like, I didn't tell any of your friends. I told my friends that what was truth is truth. And they were very taken aback that a Pakistani man, player, guy is keeping his wife satisfied. It was unheard of. For them, it was like a shock. It was like, you're lying. I was like, why would I lie? Like, I don't care. He's your friend. Like, I don't care if I have to say he's bad in bed. But why should I lie?
But it's interesting that they had this moment because I'm very curious. So you guys got married, and you said he was a noob. He was a total noob,
Yeah.
and it's very impressive that he kept you first. Because I always, my perception has been that this is something that you train your mind and your body into believing that you have to keep your partner first, and if you have a female partner, then her body is different,
Yeah.
and all of this. So how was this process like? If you can I mean, of course you can't speak for him, but how was that process like? Did it ever, what was he doing right? Was he reading resources? Was he going to counseling?
I think those
And when
hats off to those 15 girlfriends, if I can say. He had explored what women want, basically, I guess. And when because I'm petite and he's a big guy. If I that doesn't say much, I question him till this day. Maybe you married me because you knew I was petite, and it was you're always gonna have it tight. And he'd be like, no, like why? It's the
this
15.
is the same thing I tell Christoph,
Yeah,
and he jokes about it, and he's like, of course,
I just
of
this
course.
because I literally doubt him. So he's like, no, that's not the case. But yeah, because even I have had two deliveries, but they were both cesarean. So after some time, I was like,
Oh.
"Aren't you glad I had cesareans?" He's like, "You have no idea. I was so shit scared." I was like, "Oh my god, really?" So that's also one thing. But he's he's been raised by a feminist mother, first of all, and he's been very, as far as I know, he's been good with his girlfriends. As much as I know, I've seen his exes who talk very comfortably with him around, who talk to me as well very comfortably. So, it's not like I see that he was good to women, and that's why he was extra good to me because
Yeah, makes a lot of
yeah,
sense.
because
Yeah.
there have been times in my marriage, honestly, Coco, where I've looked at him and wondered, why am I with this guy? Like you always have those moments in your marriage, like, I want out, like, I want to explore out there. And then I'd be like, what if the next person I find is not good enough in bed? Like, then I've lost it all. Like, at least the bare minimum is he's
Yeah.
amazing in bed, and he's there to take care of me.
So you mentioned about painful sex on the first night.
Yeah.
How did you get through that?
I reached straightly. I reached out to a gay friend of mine, and I was like, hey, like, what the hell? And he's like, baby, lube it up. And I was like, really? It's like, yeah. It's like, isn't this a gay thing? It's like, no, you can use it, honey. And I was like, okay. So here's the funny thing. So I thought lube is just like, it was like, and he was like, use KY jelly. So KY jelly, I Googled, and it was like a medical lube, right? It's water based and all of that. So I was like, okay, cool. So I went to a pharmacy, and I went and walked in, and I was like, I want KY jelly. And there were two men who looked at each other, then they looked at me, and I'm a very small, even right now, I don't come off as a 37-year-old. I can easily pass off at 25,
Yeah,
26,
you're
right?
really you're tiny, like me, I
Yeah,
know.
so you
Yeah.
get away with a lot of shit, right? Like that, right? So I was there, and
I can't imagine. Like, I want KY jelly.
I just thought it was like a normal Panadol, like you're getting something like that, right? So I went and I said, okay, and those two guys, Pakistani men, are like looking at me. Then they looked at this woman and a really old auntie, and they were like, she wants KY jelly, like like you, like
What?
yeah, they were fully judging me. And so this woman comes like, what do you want? And I was like, KY. That's when I realized, oh my god, this is like a proper lube that people buy for. Like, I might as well have walked in and bought condoms. So I was like, KY jelly. What flavor? I was like, no flavor.
Flavor?
Like, I don't know.
It has flavors. I don't know.
I-
I'm a noob in this department.
I-
the noob department.
Exactly. So I was like, no flavor, just like give. And I remember my dad was in the car, so I bought this. I brought it in, and we were going for a honeymoon. So I was like, okay, KY jelly. That's so. the lube helped, and then talking to each other, and dirty talking does a lot of wonders, by the way. Not many people. Oh, by the way, we also used to have a lot of phone sex before we got married. Safe and easy way to explore ourselves.
But did you used to masturbate alongside that?
Of course.
And it
Both
helped?
of us. We're humans at the end of the
Yeah,
day. I don't get. While you were talking to me, you were on speaker, and my mother was somewhere in the foreground. And she's like, "You're not gonna talk about us." Like, why the hell not? I'm married. I'll be talking about my experience with my husband, and this is going to be showcased in Europe, so don't worry about it. But she was very, very much like, don't tell anyone.
even now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, marriage in Pakistan brings a lot of agency, a lot of freedom. Actually, if your partner, if your partner is on the same page as you, it could really change.
I always say, Coco, that I'm privileged to be married. It's a privilege because I can get away with a lot of shit. I can drive at 1 a.m. in the morning. I just have this thing that there's a guy behind me, and because most of Lahore knows me, I don't feel threatened by men a lot. Here's the thing that I've thought a lot about, and I've tried to figure it out while talking to a lot of men, is that why do men not hit on married women? Is it out of respect for their marriage? Is it because you're respecting that woman? No, it has a lot to do with the fact that this woman belongs to that man. So I'm not gonna. There's still objectifying women. It has nothing to do with the fact that you're married and you're a woman and I should not treat you like an object, but it's that this object is some other man. So that's a bro code that I'm not going to breach, but I might breach a moral code by hitting on a divorced girl or a single girl.
Interesting. Yeah, but your situation is great. I would say in this department, because you are happy in your marriage and your husband is not. He's not a typical conservative man at all.
He's had his share of fuck ups, which were basically, how society feeds into this insecurity of men. When I got highest ranking creative award, I remember for 2 days Arslan just wasn't behaving right. He was happy. He took me out for dinner. He celebrated it, but it just didn't feel right. I knew instantly. That's where compatibility and partnership comes in. That that something's off. So I was like, "Why? What's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. Tell me what's wrong." And he didn't until he said, "Ke, I had a friend call me who said, Ke, your wife has become number one, and what the hell have you done in your life?" And that fed into his insecurity of, wow, rather than being proud of the fact that that's my wife who's done this, it became about, she's done so much, what have I done? It became competitive for him. So that's where the cultural aspects come in. Oh, obviously you're gonna go to your wife because she's got you by the balls and stuff like that, things like these that these people feed around in the cultural idea, which does affect Arslan as well. But I feel, we've had our share of differences and everything, but I've started now actually valuing and being grateful for having a supportive person who doesn't question any decision I make. In fact, is there to support. I just have to inform him that this is happening, and he said, "Okay, cool, fine."
Nice. How long have you guys been married now?
It's going to be 9 years in November, so almost a decade, and 11
So you
years.
have ample experience with marriage now. You have 2 children. How important would you say sex is in a marriage?
Very.
And to sustain it?
Very. I don't think it's just about getting a release yourself. It's about feeling that connection with that partner. And we're not the sort of people, both of us, I realized that, how they show in movies that you get the deed done and then you're sitting and cuddling and all of that. We're not at all like that. We're more like cigarettes after sex, kind of a people, you go your way, I go in my washroom, and and then we will sit and talk and here and there, but it would never be like that cuddly kind of thing, and to each their own, right? But it's very important, I feel you lose that connection, that physical intimacy connection, that people want to demean it by saying, oh, it's all physical. It's there. You have your needs, he has his needs. And if you guys can connect to meet each other's needs, that means you're coming to a conclusion together. It's sort of like a conversation. If you juxtapose sex with conversation, that you both have your own points, you come together, you want to talk about it, and then you reach a conclusion together, agreement, agree to disagree, whatever it is, but there is that. So I feel that sex is extremely important, and especially with kids and all. All your life is revolving around your kids. So I feel sex becomes the only point of contact which is just between you and your husband. There's no kid involved. There's nothing about, oh, the kids, the prioritizing of the kids, or your kids should come. Like, you get money. And before thinking about what you should do together or what you should buy for yourself or for your partner, you have to think about the kids first, right? Similarly, every single aspect of your life is about kids, 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 kids. But this aspect of your life is just between you and your husband. No one can get into it.
Yeah, that's so true. Didn't think of it that way. That's so true. And how have you guys kept that connection going 9 years later? Is it a lot of conversation? Is it really hard work? On some days.
Some days, like, our son gets really tired. But and it's very direct with us. Like, I'd message him, we're doing it tonight. Or he'd message me to get ready for tonight. And I hate scheduled sex, honestly, but that's what it has come to, that we're so busy and he's so busy and exhausted most of the time. But, we tried. And for me, it was a huge thing because I hate doing it in a room which has kids sleeping in. So in my older home, we had our own room, and I used to enjoy that the most. But now the kids sleep with us, and this somehow happened that it has happened. So I had to power through that because my husband has his needs, and I can't always be like, you can't. Like, for the longest time, I was like, I'm not doing it because the kids are here. He's like, what? Well, what do you want me to do? Either we go in the washroom, we go in the other room. Like, what do you want me to do? I was like, oh, they're going to wake up and then start crying. So he's like, okay, so give me a solution. What do you want me to do? So I had to power through that. I was like, okay, if this is it, this is it. But I miss my husband and I know he misses me too. So we're going to do it. So you just have to.
Yeah, it's interesting, scheduled sex. But is it really that bad? I feel like what is why would you not like, why don't you like scheduled sex?
Because it's like, I like spontaneity. Like, like, that's the only thing that I miss from my old life, the impulsiveness, the spontaneity, pre-motherhood. Now it, because I feel it's like, oh, schedule kar diya. Like, it just takes away that charm of just like making out or kissing and then just slowly getting into the gist of it. That's something that me and Arslan still have to work on. Like, like, we'd go to parties and I'd be like, oh, we're going to a party, we're gonna get buzzed and come back and we're gonna have amazing sex. But Arslan would end up drinking so much. And I'd be like, oh my God. Like, most of the parties that would happen. And I'd be like, there were like such beautiful instances where we were on like this water villa in Karachi that was rented out for us. And he got so drunk that he just came to bed and was on the water. It was literally like one of those Maldives water villas in Karachi. And he just went to, and I was so pissed off. It's not like it's always been an easy, smooth sailing. There have been times where I've been like, you know what, I was in that space that I wanted to do it, and you just fucked it up by doing some random shit, or you just pissed me off. So that's also part of it that used to happen.
Wow. So how does it work with consent? Like, of course you're married, so you have each other's consent. After some time you have like bodily cues. You don't need to lay out consent. But was it something like before every next step he used to ask for consent? What was it like? And when you got married, I don't think we had mainstreamed the conversation around consent so much at the time. This is also something that we're a lot more mindful of now.
Yeah. Um, like I said, he was very careful. Like, he would pick on my body cues, the way I was reacting to him. Um, and there have been times where I didn't feel like doing it, or I didn't feel like doing some act or something. I would say that to him, I'm not comfortable, and he would respect that. And he won't be a sore loser like sometimes I have been. Like, why wouldn't you like it? Like, all the guys in porn like it. Why won't you like it? But like, he would be very respectful of that. So I've lucked out in that way, that it wasn't a lot of forcing going on. It wasn't a lot of head pushing or stuff like that, or like, he's been very gentle
Yeah.
regarding that.
I was interested in learning, like you had a love marriage.
Yeah.
And you also lived in a very unconventional family. I think Arslan's family is very unconventional in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And that's not very common in Pakistan. But do you think your experience would have been, you already said that your experience was different because you had a love marriage and you guys were into each other and all, and now you have two children and you have daughters. So prospectively speaking, do you have a position against arranged marriage now, with your daughters in that context? Would you, I mean, I don't think you would ever push them into something, but what would be your opinion on dating for them or arranged marriage? Do you think they're really young right now?
Yeah.
So by the time they're 20, the world would be completely different.
Yeah.
And the world would look, it would be a 180-degree turn.
Yeah.
And how do you envision dating for them and marriage for them?
I don't want them dating Pakistani men. Because I lucked out, and I hope Arslan's chemistry with me and the way he is with me is setting them a standard that our dad used to get a scolding from our mom and still not raise his voice, or he'd get her flowers, or he'd come home, he'd always hug her or kiss her. And like, regardless of the fact that our mom is small and our dad is huge, there was never aggression coming from our dad. Usually it's from my side, right? Small feisty girls, I guess. I don't want them. I hope we set a standard for them to have a high standard for a boy. I want my daughters to date, and date a lot. I don't want them to date one person and marry that person and that's the end of it. I think my biggest regret, if I can honestly say that, is that I never explored myself with anyone except for my husband. And it's not like a very pious sort of a thing that I saved myself for him and all of that. No, it's just that I never got the liberty to do that. Like, I never had that. So I want, and when it comes to anything regarding boys, I want, and this is what somehow we started practicing, that Arslan would be the point of talk to my daughter. Like, she developed a crush on Harry Potter, and she just started getting obsessed about him. And I was like, oh no, here we go again. This is happening too soon. So I was just going in an overdrive of my conditioning that I should tell her to stop and everything. So I talked to Arslan and I was like, listen, this is happening. What should I do? He's like, it's very natural. It's fine. I was like, really? He's like, yeah.
How old is she?
She's 6.5. But the thing is that it wasn't unhealthy or anything. It was just that she was getting obsessed with this. And, she would just be telling everyone, like, I have a crush on Harry Potter. I don't know whether it was attention seeking, whatever it was.
How did she learn the vocabulary crush? What does it mean?
Oh, she knows. She has a vocabulary. She would talk to, we've kept a very open communication with our daughter. Like, if she would talk to me about my ex, she'd be like, Mom, did you have an ex? And I was like, yeah, I had 2 exes. And she'd be like, okay, tell me the story. And I'd tell her as it is. Because I don't want to hide that, oh no, like, like you don't want to humanize, you want to humanize yourself as a parent, that, even I had done messes and there were mistakes.
You had lives before each other.
Yeah, and that, life isn't all this, like how our parents post themselves as gods in front of us, that there was nothing wrong they ever did, and they stick to their guns even to the day when you remind them that that wasn't right. They're still like, no, what we did was right. We didn't have any awareness and all of that. So I want to humanize myself in front of my daughter. A, to tell her that everyone makes mistakes. B, to tell her that no matter what the mistake is, you can always get back up. And C, that not everything is lali lala da 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 da. It goes up. Life is all about ups and downs, but you're going to hit down as well. You gotta pick yourself back up. That's more important for me to teach her this downward, not the upper one, but the downward, because I never knew about this. I was told life is only going to be like this. But when I came down, I was like, what the fuck is going on? So I teach her about this regarding relationships and everything. And when Arslan talks to her, when the father is talking to you very comfortably about, like, it's natural, Sivim, it's okay. What's the problem? Why do you think this is a problem? She's like, I think a lot about it. I have a dream about it and all of that. And, Arslan would handle her very maturely. It's okay, it's fine. But it's just that, like, we would relate her to Inside Out. That's a very important thing that we would say. Look, Inside Out, how many emotions were there in the first part? And she's like, 4 or 5. And like, was love in any one of them? And she's like, no, maybe it's because those emotions don't come later. They come later stages in life. And whenever they're going to come, we're going to support you. And you can have boyfriends. You can go out with them. But right now, just be curious about other stuff. Like, do stuff that you feel like doing and all of that. So we've talked at length about it. I don't know, like I speak to my mom as well. Like I was telling her, a very, very affluent person in our social circle got married and turned out that the guy was impotent. So, her marriage got annulled and she now has a divorce stamp on her, which is a huge taboo in Pakistan. And I was like, you know what? This is why I say it's better to explore before marriage. She said, what does that mean? Like, you want people to have sex? Maybe you think people are not having sex right now? Like, there are people who are having it. It's just that at least with the parents knowing, you can guide them. Like, like you
Yeah,
could.
that's what I mean. If it's legal, then we can take steps when somebody is exposed to risk.
Yes.
But when something is illegal, then it's automatically like this forbidden
Gray
territory,
area, right? Like
gray
anything.
area, don't go there. And it just makes it so unsafe.
Yeah.
And that's the case with drinking, that's the case with abortion, that's the case with the sex, it's everything.
I think, by the way, abortions are legal in Pakistan.
I looked that up. That's a long conversation, another conversation. But I looked that up. I think they're not illegal, but they're also not legal. They're not illegal.
You have your ways. Like I remember there was a time where I had a false positive, and I was like, I cannot. Like my mental health cannot take this. But I knew if I told my mom, or Arslan's mom is pretty, like, she would eventually get on board, but she'd be like very excited. No, let's have a third one and all of that. But my mom would have been like, this is guna, and like, this is such a wrong thing. Like, life is coming, don't stop it. But the thing is that me and Arslan had discussed it lengths about it, that if this happens, our auto mode is to abort it, because my mental health and my health cannot take it anymore. It was 2 that was decided on, and 2 is when we ended. So, abortion. So I went, when I had the false positive, I did reach out to my gynecologist, and she told me there's a way about it that you can get it done, and I will guide you through the process. And even if Arslan's not part of it, it's okay. But I prefer he be there, because then, that just breaks the taboo that maybe you're single or whatever, or maybe it's not your husband. So to avoid all that stupidity, take Arslan if he's on board with you and get it done. So,
right.
Yeah, like, like sex change is pretty, it's a government funded thing that you can do over here in Pakistan as well.
Right. Yeah. But coming back to your daughters, so you want them to date and explore before marriage, something that you didn't do as widely as maybe you said you would have liked.
You know what? I feel now I'm seeing a generation of women that don't want to get married. And I support that 100%. your life shouldn't begin when you get married. Like, why do you get this validation once you get married that, oh, I sometimes feel about it like, I'm the black sheep of the family. I was the rebellious one. I wasn't considered as a star child at all in my family. Even now, some elders don't consider
Me
me.
neither.
Take it.
Me neither.
Despite all our accomplishments.
They've only started taking it a bit more seriously now.
Because
Yeah, like for the last couple
you are
years.
getting married to a guy? Is it because of that?
I don't think it's that. Well, that's good. That's good for them. It check marks a box. But they started taking it seriously. I think taking me seriously a couple years ago. When I was pretty old, like 28, 29. That's when they, and this is before the guy entered, and I'm sure they'll take me much more seriously when I'm
Yeah,
married.
because you know what I
I
feel?
know this will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I feel? The general society feels, oh, a man thought she is worthy of spending the rest of his life. She is worthy. Like, I feel that's there. Before this, oh, she's worthless. So I feel I don't want to put this in my children's or my daughter's head, get married, get married, get married, get married. No. I want them to be financially independent. I want them to live their lives. If they grow up and they say we want to move out, I will support it 100% because the growth that comes out of living alone is something that I never experienced. Which is why even at 37, I'm shit scared of moving out and starting from scratch, with my own family and everything. So I would want them to explore that. And if they're living alone, I see women, why should one get married because they have the urges or they want to have sex? I want to say, like, do it. Like, don't imagine you getting married just to have sex. What I did, me and our son did. That was the only thing left. So we decided to. That was a driving factor in getting married, right?
Do you think if you lived elsewhere that maybe you would have just lived together without being married?
Oh, hell yes. I would have loved to be in a live-in relationship with Arslan before I get married. Probably I wouldn't even have married him had we had a live-in relationship. But
Yeah, because it's exactly the same like marriage.
a friend of mine was in a live-in relationship with his girlfriend, and the parents were supportive. The guy's parents were supportive. I'm sure the girl's parents probably weren't too happy about it, but she had a house of her own, and the guy used to live with her. And I think they lived together for 2-3 years, and they broke up. Even though, they made perfect sense, like, okay, these two are meant to be, like, they're in a live-in relationship. I was so happy that I told him that's the best thing you could do it for yourselves, because you guys are taking a test run at marriage. And it's and when they broke up, I was a bit disappointed, but I was like, at least they tried it and it didn't work out. Had they gotten married, it would have ended in divorce. And then the world would have been happy. So I don't get it. Live-in relationships are also, by the way, illegal in Pakistan. So if anyone finds out that you're in a live-in relationship, they can report you and all of that, shit can, yeah. So, but I feel, yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, so prospectively, there is a generation of people in many parts of the world. They don't want to get married. They're moving further and further away from marriage. Especially a lot of women. I've read studies coming out of several even Asian countries.
Especially
Asian
countries, especially Asian and
more
South Asian.
financially independent. So they're like, why should we get married? We're financially independent. So I feel like maybe in 10, 20 years, we're going to have a generation or a society where people are married truly for the reason of companionship,
Yeah.
not for the reason of guardianship. Because right now, a lot of women marry for guardianship, I think. And that's changing, and that's really great.
Exactly.
And,
so we're prepping our daughters up for that you don't need to get married unless you are absolutely sure about this person. Like, I don't know if Arslan would ever be comfortable with her being in a living situation, but depends what like, we don't want to be stuck with that mindset because we were raised in it, because the way the world is evolving, I don't want to live in my children like that. But I have to put in some ground realities. At the end of the day, beta, we are in Pakistan. And like there are some things like, we're here for you, we'll protect you no matter what, but find a safer option. For example, if she's living somewhere, like rented a room, and she, I don't know, maybe wants to go in a live-in relationship or whatever, I would probably guide her and talk to her. Are you sure? Like, I don't feel comfortable about this, and what's going to happen. Either move abroad and do whatever you want. But if you're here and she still stays on it, no, I want to, then I'll probably tell her, find a safer option. Not in this place, not in this area, like, you have mob lynching going on and all of these things. Anyone could say anything. So it's about keeping her rooted to realities while letting her
yeah, of course, providing her a clear picture of
yeah,
what the risk factors
rather than
are.
in our generation, we hid everything. We weren't comfortable sharing with our parents that we had a boyfriend, or that I'm going to his house, or that I'm going to his friend's house to just hang out with him, or I'm going to that party or that farmhouse or anything like that, because we were obviously they were going to refuse it. But that put us in a lot of dangerous situations without them realizing.
Yeah, and are you so you have two daughters and one of them is 6.5.
Yeah.
So are you guys already educating them about sex and good touch and bad touch, and how are you doing this?
We started teaching swimming at the age of 3. We told her about bad touch and good touch, but and I discussed this at length with Arslan, because obviously he doesn't understand as a woman what's the issue. And I told him I want to teach her and be more aware about the fact around uncomfortableness. Like, that's the key term we use. We don't say, she knows the good touch and the bad touch, but we focus more on uncomfortableness, that I'm not comfortable. Like if Arslan is giving her a shower and she says, Mimi, I'm not comfortable, can you give me a shower? And instantly Arslan will back off and I will give it to her. That's the confidence we've started building in her, that uncomfortableness. So even recently we went somewhere like a roadside diner sort of a place, right? Street food. And there were a lot of men. And Sivim just came to me. She's like, I'm uncomfortable. I was like, why? She's like, there's so many men. But this is how it is, beta. This is how it is. Like, there are going to be men everywhere you go. What do you want to do? And she was like, nothing. I just want to be sitting next to you. And would you feel better if you were sitting next to Baba? And she was like, yeah. So then I told Arslan, like, she's not feeling comfortable. And he made her sit on his lap and was talking to her and gave that masculine energy for her to feel.
That's really, really great. That's really great, because a lot of times how you feel is very intuitive.
Yeah.
And there is no apparent danger, but something in you, a voice within you is telling you that something is not feeling 100% right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great way to go about life in general.
Yeah,
this
like
sentence,
like
attitude works everywhere.
That uncomfortableness as a woman, like you said, you can sense danger, right? But since we've never honed that emotion in us, what exactly is this emotion that I'm feeling? So we've labeled it as uncomfortableness for her, that I'm not comfortable. It's not even about being safe. You could be in the most safest of places in your own home and still get taken advantage of. But it's just that uncomfortableness that can come to you anytime.
Sensing this feeling that's not and you should something is not 100% right.
Yeah, like even with the dress, like if I make her wear something, I'm not comfortable in it, I'd be like, okay, cool, let's take it off. Like, we're making her attuned.
So she's learned to listen to her instinct. If something doesn't feel right, she knows that
she can tell us. Yeah, that's the bridge that we've drawn. Yeah.
She's learned to listen to her intuition.
Hopefully really that's the idea, for her to just feel that I'm not comfortable here, period.
Interesting. But thank you for being here and for speaking with me.
Thank you for having me.